But the first show was kind of interesting because the wind was blowing from behind the stage, and it had this giant afro wig, kind like curly wig, and it kept blowing in front of my face. So at the very
Oh,
very end of the song, there's this part where it just says, "I was born this way." I just ripped off the wig, and it was the end of the show.
Hello, welcome to 3 Gigs, the podcast that tells the stories of 3 shows that have had a profound effect on a performer's life and career. Their first show, their best show, and their worst show. I'm your host, Dominic Davy, and today my guest is VIZIN, pop star and drag queen extraordinaire.
Need some more, and I feel your body close to mine, and I move on, love. It's about that time. Make me feel not real. Make me feel not real.
This episode of 3 Gigs is brought to you by FreshCleanTees.com. It works like a shave club, but they send you t-shirts, super awesome t-shirts. And they have a special offer for all the listeners of 3 Gigs. Save 20% off your first order by going to FreshCleanTees.com and entering the coupon code GIG at checkout. That's FreshCleanTees.com with offer code GIG. VIZIN is a Los Angeles-based Native American visual artist, pop singer, and drag performer whose dance pop single for You Make Me Feel Mighty Real spent 8 weeks on the Billboard Dance Club Songs chart and peaked at number 24 over Taylor Swift, which is pretty amazing. The song is a reimagined version of the original dance anthem by Sylvester from 1978. And what also makes this a remarkable feat is that most drag performers who chart on Billboard usually do so after being alumni of RuPaul's Drag Race, and VIZIN charted without ever appearing on the show at all. So that's kind of awesome. So after a very successful club and Pride tour last year, VIZIN was able to make a little time to speak to me. And being from the punk rock band world, I was very excited to both talk to someone who performs pop and who does drag. So I was stoked that she was able to make some time and share her stories with me, and I hope you'll be excited to hear them too. So as usual, she started by telling me about her very first show ever.
Well, when I started out, I started as Billy Simone, and I was actually about 500 pounds heavier then, and that was in 2008. Well, actually 2007, we'll say, because that's when I first performed in drag, but I was lip syncing back then. And I performed to And I'm Telling You. And the boobs that I was wearing were these light up toys. Well, one of them lit up, and they were these like latex toys. and anyway, the left one was lit up the entire time. So it's like, and I am telling you. And every time it just shook.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely a wow moment for sure.
That was Billy Simone's first performance. But VIZIN was a little different. You know, we're starting out with this kind of pop artist format, and so I actually went back to North Dakota, where I'm from, and it was my first time performing, as VIZIN, back home again, in my home state, and it was kind of an interesting moment, kind of surreal, I guess.
No, I imagine it would be.
Yeah.
Did it help comparing the before we go on with the story? Did it help? Does having VIZIN as this character to become, does that help at all in terms of nervousness, or is it still like, do you still feel all that same?
Definitely. I like to say that VIZIN is kind of my mask,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way, like since I'm Native American, I kind of draw from that inspiration of painting. You know, it's my warrior paint, and when I go on stage, I'm fully transformed, and so it kind of takes away the nervousness, and also, you know, having a corset squeeze your waist and your ribs together takes away that.
I've heard that before. I haven't experienced it myself, but I've definitely heard of that before. I don't know. And also playing hometown. Whenever I play my home area, it's just so nerve wracking. I've played in front of thousands of people at festivals in my own bands and everything, but going home and playing locally is always a head trip. So I can imagine it was a bit nerve wracking.
Oh, definitely, it definitely was. But it was definitely, I think, it was eye opening for myself, because I went back home with kind of an idea of how people were perceiving me, but then when I was talking with everyone, they were just so proud, and it was just a great moment for me personally.
That's awesome. Where did the show happen at?
The first show as Vision was back in Bismarck, North Dakota. That's
Okay.
the state capital there.
Yeah, been there.
Yeah.
Believe
So
it or not.
yeah, and you know, North Dakota is pretty conservative, so to have like a turnout that we had, it was exciting. It was great.
Oh, so it was a pack show then.
Yeah, it was a really good show
Oh,
too.
that's awesome. Did you?
Yeah.
Were you the
My
headliner?
favorite part, actually, I'm sorry to interrupt. My favorite part was that I had the opportunity to work with, you know, some of Gaga's dancers, so having them backing me up with, you know, the whole performance, it was an amazing moment for me.
That is exciting. See, one of the things that I was really excited about talking to you is that your point of view and performances are pop based, and like I'm a punk musician, and you know I'm in a punk band, and so it's a whole, you know, it's like it's curious to see how different. Like I've never, of all the shows that I have ever performed everywhere, I have never had to think about dancers.
Yeah.
You know, and dance moves.
Yeah, like I started out as an opera.
Really?
Yeah, when I was coming out of high school, I was training to become an opera singer.
Wow.
And yeah, so my, you know, getting into drag kind of changed it. You know, you're lip syncing every song, so it's not really getting to showcase what I'm able to do.
Mm-hmm.
So also when I came out here, and it was kind of the idea, you know, to come out here and kind of discover what I could do and see if we could make something happen. And, you know, in 3 years, like, I'm on Billboard.
Yeah.
And
Congratulations.
that's kind of like, yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it happens so like serendipitously, and it just happens so fast. Like,
I'll say, did you have
So,
any?
like-
Oh, go on.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask because I've known a few opera singers, and it's very different than singing pop. Did you find like when you adjusted for that first show? Because it's one thing to lip sync and perform in that regard, but when you unleashed your voice and you started to sing, was it a bit of a transition at first to like prepare yourself to sing that way?
Well, I've I've been told that my voice isn't very pop sometimes, and that's kind of something that I've that I've kind of had to like swallow, I guess.
Yeah, you're like,
And,
thanks.
yeah, I don't know how, like, I've been working so hard, or I worked so hard like most of my life, you know, rounding my diction and you know, making sure I sound correct when you hear me singing Italian or something like that.
Right.
So when I'm singing pop, it's kind of, I'm still learning. I'm still on my journey for that voice, I guess.
Yeah.
And I actually I really love singing jazz songs, and
Really?
that's kind of my my I guess it's kind of a secret thing, and not really a secret, like something I do in private, and
Mhm.
maybe one day I'll get to do that, have a jazz album or something.
Well, it's funny that you brought up Lady Gaga's dancers because that's one of the things she does. She has a whole jazz band that she'll perform with on occasion, doing that in conjunction with her career. Like she just says,
Right.
"Fuck it, I'm gonna do this," and
Right.
because I love it, you know.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's like drag kind of connects me to people, and it's my window or the doorway to getting into people's lives, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
to like expose them to my world, basically. And well, I mean, for Vision, there's a lot more to it, and there's more to like it's more of a visual art is what I'm trying to create, and music is a big part of it. And so like I want to like be inspired by Gaga, but it's kind of that vibe. It takes like the artistry. I'm trying to fuse the worlds, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, as far as Lady Gaga, like I'm in a punk rock band and I'm inspired by Lady Gaga, so definitely no hate there. But like at the same time, like yeah, no, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that you are a sound alike by any means. You have your own sound, clearly. Listening to your music, it's very clear that you have your own take. It's funny because I would never have. After listening to your songs, I would never have said like, well, you really don't have a pop voice. I wouldn't have thought that myself. I thought you had a great voice. So, I mean, I think it sounds like you're killing it. Not to overly kiss your ass here, but I mean, I enjoyed your music a lot. So, I think and clearly it's working. So, I mean, everyone could go to hell.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that the first show worked out so well, especially it must have been really interesting to have gone home and had that starting place. And then you had the Lady Gaga's dancers. So you had these professional dancers who knew what they were doing. I mean, it must have been a hell of a show. You must have felt so good to like, okay, I can do this. This can happen.
Yes, it was definitely a form, I guess, not vindication, but it was, I've been on this journey for a long time, and to, have that milestone check off my list, it was a great moment.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
Excuse me.
No, not at all. Okay, so that was the first show, and definitely gave you the fire to like, all right, I can do this. This is gonna work. What would be one of the best shows that you've played, or it could be more than one story or just one, but like, what's one of the standouts when you were like, wow, this is it. This is what I want. I'm loving this.
Right. Well, I had the opportunity last summer to perform at Long Beach Pride. Well, actually, I did a lot of prides last year, and it's been crazy because like in Long Beach, I shared the stage with Shaka Khan there,
Oh,
and like
wow.
she's just a legend in music, and so like that was intense. And then I actually did 2 shows that weekend on the same stage. But the first show was kind of interesting because the wind was blowing from behind the stage, and it had this giant afro wig, kind of like curly wig, and it kept blowing in front of my face. So at the very end of at the very end of the song, there's this part where it just says, "I was born this way." I just ripped off the wig, and it was the end of the show.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the next day we had a flawless show run through and everything. It was great. I really had a good weekend that night at Long Beach. Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been just an exciting feeling. I mean, to play all those celebrations and to be a part of it, and then to be able to just kill it in front of somebody you admire. I mean, that's
Yes.
that's awesome. I love that one of your best shows, though, you were fighting the wind. That kind of gives me a clue of
well, it's those moments, the magic moments that it kind of like it's like a glimmer of light into my world, kind of. You get to see my humor when those moments happen.
Right, and and then able to turn that into like one of your best shows of all time. It's like it's pretty awesome. How long are your sets? Like, do you normally? I mean, I know
I usually
technically.
Yeah, I usually do about an 8-minute, 10-minute set.
Oh, okay.
And so it's and what I've been doing, my songs are the songs that I've been doing right now are just cover songs, and it's
Mhm.
just kind of getting me in the door.
Right.
And the actual song that got me on Billboard, Mighty Real, or You Make Me Feel Mighty Real, is a cover song from a disco hit in the 70s.
Mhm.
Um, and the original artist, Sylvester, was actually he was kind of a gender androgynous like character. He wasn't trans, but he was also a gay. He was a gay man, but
Mhm.
he wasn't completely identified as trans, but didn't completely identify as a man. So it's kind of fun to take the inspiration from Sylvester, and bring it into the present with today's youth.
No,
You
that's
know.
really exciting. And also to take a song that people wouldn't be listening to right now and give it new
Hmm.
life. Like I love that. Um,
Yeah, it's really fun.
my band has the hardest time picking covers. We talk about it all the time, and we hardly ever agree. So we never get anything done. It's the worst.
Oh
So,
no, yeah, I've been through that too.
because you think like, oh, what about this
Except for,
one? What about this one? I don't know. How'd you pick
mhm.
on that one? I mean, how did that one stand out?
Well, actually, my producer Chris Rosa, he's worked with Jamie Foxx and RuPaul, among others, and he actually worked on Blame It on the Alcohol, if you believe that.
Oh, wow.
But he's he was the one that put it in my head, like, let's do some disco covers, and um, we can re-educate today to the I like to say, let's foster the children. I like to say that, and we can reconnect. Um, I like to say that the 70s was a really good era, a really great era for gay culture, and so bringing back that kind of attitude and that carefreeness, back into the music is something that I'm really hoping to bring. Excuse me.
No, no, no problem. I think you are. I know I'm totally cheating here. I'd say I'm going to ask three questions and then I totally lie and ask a bunch of questions during the course of the conversation. So it's like it's a total cheat. Like every
I
time
love
I
that.
talk to anybody, I'm like, yeah, three questions, right? But but it just comes up as I go along. But do you normally also, I mean, in regards to the performance, when you were performing at like Long Beach Pride or any of these performances, do you perform with dancers as well? Then generally, do you have a group that come with you, or is it sometimes just you, or how does it work? I only ask
um,
because in my dynamic, we're playing in a band setting every time. I
right,
like I said,
right. Um, I do perform at dancers. It depends on the size of the stage. I've performed with like four before, and they like to call me the Mariah Carey of drag because, like I'm a singer. I'm a singer, and that's what I do. I've never really been a dancer, and I was large before, so I was move around. So they call me the Mariah Carey of drag because they just stand there and point, and then they walk me to my point where I need to be, and then they dance around me, and we're good. As long as I can hit a couple of notes, and we're good.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize is how hard it is to sing
Hmm.
properly and then move around that stage. So it's
Yes,
like, I've
and
always,
going back and forth on that stage in 5-inch heels, and I've got five, sometimes six pairs of tights on, and my head hurts because that wig is digging into my scalpel or my
oh,
scalp, and so it can get intense, but it's all for the it's all for the show. It's everything.
no, and I do appreciate that. Is that we have two women in my band, and
Mhm.
my singer Kate has
So
been
that's great.
like, yeah, absolutely not. I'm not walking. I'm not doing the show in heels. I think somebody suggested it to her. None of the band because we knew, but somebody was like, "Are you gonna wear like heels on the show?" And she's like, "Are you out of your mind? Like, it's a punk band. I'm gonna die." So she's like boots, flat boots.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
But so I mean,
Exactly.
much props to you to be strutting around that stage in heels. People do not appreciate like how much
They do
that.
not know what it takes.
No, no, they don't. So okay, so if that was those were the that was your first shows, stories of your first shows, and stories of some of your best shows. What was a good example of a show where you were just like, oh my God, what am I doing? Because we all have those moments where we're just like, why am I doing this? And I mean, it could be any reason. You don't have to name names. I'm not like looking for you to like bag on anybody, but just for you.
Well, okay, this one, I don't know. It's kind of it's kind of sad, but it's
oh no,
I don't know. I had to perform in Florida, and it was after the hurricane. I think it was just at the end of fall, and so it was right after the hurricane, and when we showed up, there was literally like maybe 20 or so people in the crowd. It wasn't a big show or anything, and I couldn't hear myself in the monitor or anything. So it was kind of one of those performances. But I like to think of it as though those performances are like the grind kind of thing that you have to put it in, just because it's every performance is not going to be the best one, but it's always a good time to practice.
No, it is. And I've often said, like, the level of musicianship and performer you see is not somebody who shines when everything goes right. It's how well you can accomplish the show while you're doing it when things are going wrong. And that's the difference between...
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this last show, we just played a show in our home area in San Francisco, and it was a sold-out show. It was super fun. It was great. I actually had more technical problems in that one show than ever, but most people can't really tell. I mean, my guitarist and the other band members were like, "You having problems over there, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." Very much so. I am very much having issues. But we got through it, and I was proud of that for the most part. I mean, there's a couple parts when you watch the videos of the show where you're like, oh, you can tell. But like, for the most part, people aren't picking up on it. And it was a great show, and I can now enjoy that, where I think when I was younger, I would have been like, it was a disaster.
Right.
But no, it was a great show. I just had some problems. I'm going to make sure I don't have those problems again.
Yeah, those are those rock star moments, like, like when Ozzy bit the head off the bat when he thought it was a fake bat.
I know, right? Exactly.
It's those things that make you real.
When we're out there dancing on the floor, darling, and I feel like I need some more, and I feel your body close to mine, and I move on, love, it's about that time. Make me feel mighty real, make me feel mighty real. You make me feel.
You've been listening to VIZIN, pop star, drag performer, and all-around badass. If you'd like to find out more about VIZIN, check out our Facebook at facebook.com/VIZIN official. That's spelled VIZIN official at Facebook. If you'd like to find out more about 3 Gigs, check out our website at 3gigspodcast.com. We have extras from all of our guests, including VIZIN, and you can find us online on all of our social media pages as well, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, just by searching 3 Gigs Podcast. Please give us a follow and let us know what you think. I love to hear from you, and you should tell me who you'd like to hear on the show. I'll do my best to get them on. Our theme music for this show was You Make Me Feel Mighty Real by VIZIN. The track is out now on the Q Haas LLC. So check it out. It's on Spotify. It's on everything. So give it a listen. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Dominic Davey. This has been 3 Gigs, and I will see you next time.